Okay, GH fans, buckle up, because Port Charles is about to serve chaos with a side of cranberry sauce and court dates. Over the next few weeks, we've got a runaway bride possibility, a fake romance blowing up in spectacular fashion, mob power plays, corpse nightmares, family reunions, and at least one character drinking way too much to outrun their feelings. If you thought Thanksgiving was messy, wait till you see what happens as we roll toward Christmas. You've got Willow standing in a wedding dress wondering if marrying Drew is really her future or just her guilt in a veil. Michael's picture-perfect, slowly warming romance with Jacinda. Yeah, that's about to get torpedoed by one very big lie about the night Drew was shot. Carly is back in full schemer mode, teaming up with Valentin of all people, while Sonny's being backed into a corner by Jen Sidwell and quietly sharpening his knives. And in the middle of it all, Britt is spiraling, Liesl is a walking hypocrisy flag, Laura is seeing dead men in her sleep, and the teens of Port Charles are learning that breaking into labs actually has consequences. You have to hear what's coming up on General Hospital, because this is one of those stretches where every storyline is tied together by secrets, guilt, and people pretending they're fine when they are absolutely not fine. So let's set the stage before we dive into the juicy stuff, because the state of the canvas in Port Charles is wild right now. Drew has been shot, and Willow has been under a giant cloud ever since, facing the legal fallout and wondering what her life is supposed to look like moving forward. She said yes to his proposal kind of. Emotionally, she's halfway down the aisle and halfway out the door, and that tension is all over her scenes. Michael is trying to hold everything together, his family, the business, his love life, and in the process he's built this too good to be true romance with Jacinda, who was literally hired to pretend to fall for him. Except now the pretending part is getting real right as her lies threaten to blow up his alibi in Drew's case. Carly is doing what Carly does best, deciding that if law enforcement and the system aren't moving fast enough, she'll just handle things herself. She's secretly partnering with Valentin, who is locked up but nowhere near out of the game, and together they're playing chess against Jack Brennan while Jen Sidwell tries to flex on Sonny. Britt is in crisis mode, emotionally and morally. Liesl has been out here preaching forgiveness to Willow about Nina, all while refusing to forgive her own daughter. Laura is haunted, literally, by the corpse chaos around Professor Dalton, while Emma and Gio are poking around dangerous secrets like it's just another extracurricular activity. The Quartermains are still the Quartermains, which means turkey disasters and pizza, but they're also healing from hospital stays, reconciling relationships, and maybe, just maybe, revisiting adoption dreams. That's the canvas. Now let's go storyline by storyline and really dig in. Let's start with Willow and Drew, because that wedding isn't just a ceremony, it's a giant emotional landmine. We've got Willow at Drew's place, looking like a bride on the edge. On paper, this marriage makes sense. He stood by her, he fought for her, he pushed to clear her name. But when it's time to actually lock in forever, you can feel her stomach drop. She's not sure if she's doing this out of love, or obligation, or because she's tired of being the girl who hurts people. Enter Nina, who, for once, is not the one begging for forgiveness, but the one handing it out. She's promised to support her daughter no matter what, and she means it. If Willow decides to put that ring on and say, "I do," Nina will be in the front row, clapping and smiling and trying not to think about Drew's tendency to go scorched earth when things don't go his way. But if Willow looks at that aisle and thinks, "Nope, not today," Nina is ready to scoop her up, walk her out, and deal with the fallout later. And that's the tension here, right? If Willow marries Drew, she's basically tying herself to the man who's built his whole identity around payback lately. Does she really want to expand her Drew dependency, as Nina fears, and make this permanent? On the flip side, if she bails at the last second, what does that do to Drew's anger issues? Does he turn all that revenge energy toward Michael, toward Jacinda, toward anyone who looks at him wrong? Meanwhile, back at the Quartermain mansion, Thanksgiving goes exactly how you'd expect. Harrison Chase tries his best to give this family a Hallmark-style holiday with a perfectly cooked turkey, and Outback literally steals it right off the table. Only in Port Charles do you need a security detail for poultry. In classic Q fashion, it turns into pizza night, which is honestly more on brand for them anyway. But this year, there's a bright spot. Ned is out of the hospital and back home in time to be part of the chaos. That alone shifts the emotional tone. We're reminded that for all the dysfunction, the Quartermains are a family that comes back together after every explosion, every argument, and every missing bird. The big question hanging over these scenes is simple: is this the future Willow wants? Pizza dinners with the Quartermains, being Mrs. Drew Kane, raising kids in a house where drama is basically oxygen. Or is she about to bolt and create a whole new mess? Now let's move to Michael and Jacinda, because this storyline has a slow-motion car crash written all over it, and you can't look away. Jacinda started off as a hired escort with a mission: pretend to fall for Michael, stand by his side, and give him the emotional cover he needed. But the thing about Michael is, when he's not in destroy Sonny mode, he's actually kind of perfect boyfriend material. He's respectful, he listens, he's protective, and he genuinely tries to see the best in people. So of course Jacinda starts catching real feelings. The problem? She's lying to the one man who values honesty almost to a fault. Michael thinks that after they parted ways the night Drew was shot, Jacinda went back to her hotel alone. That's their joint alibi, and he's been resting easy, convinced no one can poke holes in it. Except one person already has: Harrison Chase. He knows Jacinda wasn't alone. He knows she was with Ezra Boyle that night. Right now, Chase is quietly gathering proof, because he's trying to help Willow in court, and this little detail about Ezra and Jacinda could change everything. Maybe he slips up and lets a clue drop. Maybe the truth explodes in court. Either way, you know that revelation is coming. And when it hits, Michael is going to feel that same gut punch he felt when he learned other women in his life had lied to him for his own good. Only this time, it's not just heartbreak. This lie could paint a target right on his back. If Jacinda admits she was with Ezra, Michael's alibi starts cracking. Suddenly Drew's wish that Michael go down for the shooting if Willow walks free doesn't seem so impossible. You can already picture the scene: Michael staring at Jacinda, hurt and furious, as he realizes the woman he was starting to fall for might be the reason he lands in handcuffs. Will Jacinda try to explain that she was scared, that she didn't want to expose Ezra, that she never meant for Michael to get hurt? Sure. But once trust is shattered like that, can you really put it back together? And for Jacinda, whose whole future might have been tied to this fantasy of turning a fake romance into a real fairy tale, what happens when the fantasy collapses? Meanwhile, over in Mob and Spy land, things are heating up between Sonny, Carly, Sidwell, and Brennan. Jen Sidwell is out here throwing his power around like he owns the city. He's making dangerous moves, cornering Sonny, and testing just how far he can push one of the most dangerous men in Port Charles. For a minute it looks like he might actually have the upper hand, Sonny facing pressure, forced into tight spots, maybe even having to swallow his pride. But you and I both know Sonny Corinthos does not stay boxed in for long. These weeks hint at a classic Sonny slow burn retaliation. He's not rushing into anything, he's strategizing. Jason is back in his orbit, and the two of them are doing what they do best: sitting down, connecting dots, and plotting how to take apart an enemy without getting caught in the fallout. On the Carly side, she's teaming up with Valentin Cassadine while he's locked up, and that pairing is deliciously dangerous. Those secret prison meetings? They're not book club. Carly and Valentin are sharing intel, gaming out moves against Jack Brennan, and basically trying to outmanipulate a man who thinks he's smarter than all of them put together. The risk here is huge. If Brennan catches on to their alliance, he doesn't just make life difficult, he destroys people. So every time Carly sneaks into that prison, every time she and Valentin trade information, they're playing with matches in a room full of dynamite. You almost want to yell at your screen, "Carly, maybe just sit this one out and let someone else be reckless for once." But that's not who she is. When someone threatens her family, she steps into the line of fire. And then you've got Jocelyn dealing with the emotional whiplash of Vaughn just vanishing. She's furious, because of course she is. Vaughn was a distraction, sure, but he was her distraction. Jack Brennan doesn't care. As far as he's concerned, Vaughn was a pawn who got pulled off the board for not playing by the rules. All of this feeds into one big question: when Sonny finally strikes back at Sidwell, when Carly and Valentin pull the trigger on their plan, who's going down, and who's just collateral damage? Let's swing back to Britt and Liesl, because this mother-daughter mess is one of the most emotionally loaded parts of the canvas right now. Britt is in full-on meltdown mode. She's been through trauma, lies, fake deaths, and God knows what else, and instead of facing it head-on, she's reaching for a bottle. Drunk Britt is heartbreaking, because underneath the jokes and the swagger, she's a woman who doesn't really believe she deserves good things, not love, not forgiveness, and definitely not a clean slate. Enter Jason, who once again shows up as the quiet, steady presence she didn't know she needed. He's there on one of her worst nights, ready to pull her back from the edge. He doesn't judge, doesn't lecture, just offers comfort and a safe place to land. It's such a Jason move. He might not say much, but when the people he cares about are drowning, he's always the one diving in after them. Now contrast that with Liesl Brecht, who recently marched over to Willow and gave her a whole speech about forgiveness. She called Willow out for acting like an ungrateful child, pushed her to open her heart to Nina again, and basically declared that family means forgiving the people who hurt you eventually. And she's not wrong. Willow did need that push. She's missed her mother, even if Nina's track record is a mess, and it was time to start rebuilding that bond. But here's the problem: Liesl is preaching forgiveness to everyone else while refusing to apply the same standard to her own daughter. She has not forgiven Britt. She hasn't truly tried to mend that relationship. She's holding on to anger and disappointment like it's a security blanket, and it makes her look like a massive hypocrite. What Liesl doesn't fully grasp is just how trapped Britt was. That conversation with Sidwell spilled some tea. Britt woke up at the Five Poppies resort and was basically forced to play along with a fake demise plan. She didn't choose to abandon her mother. She survived. And now she can't even tell Liesl the whole truth without putting her in danger. That's the tragedy of this arc. Both women want to reconnect. Both are hurting. But pride, fear, and secrets are keeping them apart. You can feel that the show is inching toward a breakthrough, some moment where Liesl realizes she's been demanding Willow do what she herself hasn't had the courage to do. When that day comes, when Liesl finally takes her own advice and forgives Britt, it's going to be emotional. Over in the mayor's orbit, Laura is dealing with a completely different kind of trauma. She's been neck-deep in this creepy Professor Henry Hank Dalton storyline, and now the corpse chaos is starting to haunt her. Literally. She's so rattled by everything that she starts to feel like Dalton is still hovering around, in memories, in nightmares, maybe even in visions. For a woman who's handled kidnappings, mob wars, and Cassadine madness, the fact that this is getting under her skin says a lot. That's why Kevin's return is such a huge emotional beat. Laura gets this beautiful surprise when he comes back into town, and suddenly she has a real confidant again. Not a political ally. Not a cop on the case. Her husband. The one person she can confess to. I feel like a dead man is following me, and he won't look at her like she's lost it. Kevin's presence steadies her, but it doesn't magically fix everything. Laura is still carrying the weight of being the moral center of this town while surrounded by violence, corruption, and secrets. And now she's got teens literally breaking into labs and chasing down the next phase of Dalton's work. Because yes, Emma Scorpio Drake is on the hunt. She's determined to track down Dalton's second, hidden lab, and she's dragging Geo along for the ride. It's very children of legacy characters doing dangerously smart things, and it's adorable until you remember that grown adults are getting hurt around this same storyline. At the same time, Danny, Rocco, and Charlotte are facing the consequences of their own law-breaking adventures. There's tough love coming their way, lectures from Lulu, guidance from Jason, probably a lot of, you are not invincible just because of your last name. These scenes are more than just teen drama, they're about the next generation learning that in Port Charles, every bad choice has a long shadow. Adding Curtis being grilled by Nathan West about the night of Drew's shooting, Trina stressing over that and a possible baby on the way for Portia, and you've got a whole family unit under pressure. Jordan tries to calm Curtis, Kai supports Trina, but the sense that everything could shift with one new piece of information is always there. In the middle of all this chaos, the show still finds time for love, family, and future plans. Brooklyn is hoping that Gio and Dante can actually make peace in time for the holidays, which would be one small miracle in a town that desperately needs them. Her relationship with Gio is finally in a better place, which opens the door for her and Chase to revisit the adoption conversation. Can you imagine Chase as a dad, guitar in one hand, baby monitor in the other? Tell me that wouldn't be the cutest thing on this show. The question is, will the universe actually let them have that happiness? Or will another snag pop up, legal, emotional, or otherwise, that delays their dream again? And then there's Isaiah, who might get a Christmas shock when he learns about Portia's pregnancy and realizes he could be the father. Talk about a storyline that could rewrite family dynamics overnight. Suddenly, Portia's future, Trina's sense of stability, and even Curtis' role in their lives could be back on the table. So as the lights go up, the Christmas decor comes out, and the citizens of Port Charles pretend it's all sugar plums and good cheer, we know better. These holidays are wrapping paper over landmines. Let's step back and dig into what's really driving some of these key characters, because their motives are everything right now. Take Michael Corinthos. He has spent years trying to be better than the world he was raised in, and yet he keeps getting pulled back into it, lies, deals, cover-ups, revenge plots. With Jacinda, it looked like he was finally getting something messy but honest. He chose to see her as more than just an escort because he wanted to believe he could have love that didn't come with constant betrayal. So when the truth comes out about that night with Ezra, it's not just, you lied to me. It's, you turned my whole life into quicksand. If his alibi falls apart and he suddenly looks like Drew's shooter, Michael isn't just heartbroken. He's cornered. And we all know a cornered Corinthos can be as dangerous as a cornered mobster. Will he snap and go full dark, blaming Jacinda for everything, doubling down on the idea that trusting people is a mistake? Or will he, eventually, see that she was also caught in the web of this case, just like him? Willow is standing at a crossroads where every option hurts. Marrying Drew means binding herself to a man currently fueled more by vengeance than peace. Walking away means she risks that vengeance turning on her, or on Michael, or on anyone Drew thinks got in the way of his justice. At the same time, she's trying to rebuild a fragile, still broken relationship with Nina. She's heard Liesel's lecture about gratitude and family. She wants her mother in her life. But wanting Nina doesn't fix the past, and it doesn't magically make the wedding decision easy. Willow is someone who has always put other people first. The big question in this arc is, does she finally choose herself? Nina, for her part, is living in this weird space between redemption and relapse. She's trying so hard to be supportive, to not push, to not manipulate. She's ready to walk Willow out of the wedding if that's what her daughter needs, and for once, that offer isn't about Nina getting what she wants, it's about Willow not being trapped. But underneath that, she's scared. Scared of Drew, scared of the fallout, scared that all of this could blow up in a way that rips her daughter away from her again. So even when she's being supportive, you can feel that panic buzzing under the surface. Then we've got Carly, who is basically the patron saint of if nobody else will handle this, I will. Her move to team up with Valentin is classic Carly, morally questionable, strategically brilliant, and emotionally reckless. She's not doing it for herself, she's doing it because she can't sit and watch people she loves be threatened. But every secret meeting, every new part of the plan, pulls her deeper into a war where there may not be a clean exit. Sonny is in a similar spot, but from the opposite angle. He's used to being the one in control, the one people fear. Sidwell backing him into a corner is a direct challenge to his identity. So when he and Jason sit down to strategize, it's not just about survival. It's about reminding the entire criminal underworld, you do not make Sonny Corinthos dance. Ever. And then there's Britt and Liesel. Britt is operating from trauma and self-loathing, convinced she deserves the pain she's drowning in. Liesel is operating from pride and denial, unwilling to admit that the daughter she pushed away might need her more than anyone. These two are mirror images right now, both hurting, both needing forgiveness, both too stubborn and scared to say, I miss you. When, and we know it's a when, not if Liesel finally finds out just how little control Britt had over her fake death, the weight of her own words to Willow is going to come crashing down on her. The question is whether she'll be able to live up to her own sermons. Alright, GH fans, let's have some fun with speculation. None of this is confirmed, this is just us reading the signs and letting our soap brains run wild. Imagine this, Willow does not go through with the wedding. At the last second, she looks at Drew, looks at Nina, feels the weight of all those secrets, and says, I can't. Nina rushes her out, and suddenly Drew is left standing there, humiliated and furious. Who does he blame? Probably Michael. Maybe he doubles down on that twisted wish that if Willow gets cleared, Michael pays the price. Now picture Michael's alibi blowing up right on schedule, thanks to Jacinda's lie about Ezra. Suddenly he's not just the guy who almost married Willow once. He's the prime suspect in Drew's shooting. If that happens, do we get a storyline where Willow has to testify for Michael? Or does she stay silent and let the chips fall? One wild theory, all this Michael's Jacinda-Ezra mess eventually exposes a third party nobody's expecting, someone who actually pulled the trigger and used all of them as cover. Maybe Ezra isn't just a fling, maybe he's tied to something bigger, and Jacinda's guilt ends up being the thing that blows the real villain's plan wide open. On the Britt and Liesl front, you can almost feel the show setting up a big holiday or New Year's reconciliation. Maybe Nina, grateful for what Liesl did for her, decides to return the favor and plays matchmaker between mother and daughter. Maybe Britt has one more ugly, drunken spiral, and it finally scares Liesl enough to break through her own stubbornness. Imagine a Christmas episode where Willow and Nina tentatively share a moment of peace, and across town, Britt and Liesl do the same. GH loves its mirrored family beats. It would fit perfectly. As for Emma and Gio, let's be honest, these two are not just poking around Dalton's lab for fun. GH loves to have the kids stumble onto the key clue that all the adults missed. Don't be surprised if they're the ones who find something in that second lab that ties Dalton's experiments to Sonny's world, or to Brennan, or to someone else on the canvas we haven't even thought of yet. And Sidwell? He might look like he's winning right now, but this feels like the beginning of his downfall. Sonny and Jason are already in strategy mode. Carly and Valentin are tightening their alliance. Jocelyn is angry and more like Carly every day. The odds are stacking against him. The fun part will be seeing who lands the first real punch, Sonny in the alley, Carly in the visiting room, or Valentin with one perfectly placed phone call. One more crazy thought, Isaiah finding out he might be Portia's baby's father could trigger a whole second wave of drama for Trina. Does she support her mom? Does she feel betrayed on Curtis' behalf? Could that push her closer to or farther from Spencer's memory, even if he's not directly involved? The emotional ripple effects could be huge. As these weeks play out, there's a strong emotional thread running through everything: who gets a second chance, and who doesn't. You've got Dylan's counterpart stories on GH in the form of characters like Britt and Jacinda, people who made terrible choices, or got pulled into schemes they didn't fully understand, and now have to decide whether to come clean and risk everything, or lie a little longer and pray they don't get caught. You've got Willow standing at the edge of a new life and realizing that no matter what she chooses, someone gets hurt. You've got Michael trying to be the good guy and still getting pulled into the line of fire. You've got Carly and Sonny doing what they always do, protecting their families, but this time with enemies who feel smarter and colder than usual. Then there's Laura, exhausted but still fighting for what's right, even while dead men haunt her dreams. Brooklyn and Chase, daring to hope for a baby in a world where happy endings are rare. Isaiah, Portia, Trina, all potentially facing a new kind of family they didn't sign up for. Underneath the mob wars and courtroom drama and secret labs, that's what this stretch of GH is really about: family loyalty versus self-preservation, love in the middle of scandal, guilt that won't let go, and the possibility, just the possibility, that forgiveness might actually change everything. So here's where I turn it over to you, GH fans. Do you think Willow should marry Drew, or should she pull a runaway bride and save herself more heartbreak down the road? Is Nina truly in supportive mom mode, or is there still a part of her that could sabotage things without meaning to? What about Michael and Jacinda? Is there any coming back from a lie that could land him in prison? Do you want them to find a way through this and become a real couple, or is this relationship doomed the second that alibi crumbles? Are you ready to see Liesl take her own advice and finally forgive Britt? And when Britt and Jason keep circling each other in these crisis moments, do you see that as friendship or something more? How far do you think Sonny will go to shut Sidwell down? And are you nervous or excited about Carly and Valentin playing partners in crime against Brennan? Drop your thoughts, your theories, and your wildest predictions down in the comments. I want to know what you think about this whole mess: Willow's wedding, Michael's looming blow-up, Britt and Liesl's fractured bond, and all the chaos building toward Christmas in Port Charles. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more long-form breakdowns of everything happening on General Hospital, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss when we upload. We've got more fallout coming from Drew's shooting, more moves from Brennan and Sidwell, and plenty of emotional landmines around Willow, Michael, and the whole Corinthos, Quartermaine, Cassidy mess. Because if there's one thing you can count on in Port Charles, it's this: even when the holidays roll in, peace is temporary, secrets don't stay buried, and the next explosion is always just one episode away.